This is an amazing interview I got to do earlier this year on the podcast with the one and the only Jen Sinkler. Jen is one of the most well-known and respected women in the fitness industry and has written for magazines like Women's Health, Men's Health, Shape, and many, many more. She's a big believer in her motto of living unapologetically strong, and she works to spread that message to more and more women each and every day all around the world. Her programs Lift Weights Faster and Lift Weights Faster 2, which is what we talk about in the podcast, have helped hundreds of women get stronger and leaner in less than 20 minutes a day. So, check out this interview. It's a great, great time. We talk a lot about omelets, diet, her obsession with lip gloss, and we talk a lot about rugby. She's a big fan of rugby and a rugby player as well. So, enjoy this episode with the one and the only Jen Sinkler. Hey guys, yet again, Google Hangouts hit me with that weird thing that it does sometimes in giving an echo. So just so you know, some of the questions will sound out of place. That's only because I had to re-record them because it would have made the show really unprofessional. You'll hear it later on, and I apologize for it being there, but the conversation with Jen was amazing, and I just had to keep a little bit of it in just to get across some of the great points that we were both sharing. I hope you enjoy the show, and with no further ado, enjoy Jen Sinkler. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Side Quest Podcast, the unofficial podcast of Fitocracy. If you have not gone over to iTunes and hit subscribe over there so that you get the episodes as soon as they release. Monday morning, bright and early at 6 a.m. It'll come right to your iPhone. And while you're there, leave a review. That's the way that we move up the charts so that more people can hear the amazing guests that I have on the show each week. As well, head over to Facebook. You can like us there at SideQuest Podcast. You can also follow me on Twitter at SideQuestFM and on Instagram as well at SideQuestFM. And if you just want to listen on the website, head over to SideQuestFitness.com/podcast, and you can listen to every episode there. And while you're there, feel free to peruse the articles that I have up and enjoy all the geeky things that I compare fitness to. But anyways, I have a great guest for you today. She is a writer and has been a writer in the fitness industry for years. She's contributed to magazines like Shape, Men's Health, Women's Health, Experience Life, and many, many, many more. Her name is synonymous with women in fitness and just being a badass, basically. But I will, with no further ado, I will welcome to the show the one and the only, the amazing Jen Sinkler. Jen, welcome to the show.
I feel like I should run in and high five everybody. I like that intro. Thank you. That was like a basketball intro. You should have jock jams playing in the background.
Ooh, well, if I wouldn't get sued for it, I totally could. Right. But yeah, it's my theater background. I gotta liven it up a little bit. As happens. So Jen, a lot of people are going to know your name. When I say Jen Sinkler is coming on the show, people are going to be like, oh, I know Jen Sinkler. And you've written for a very, very long time. But how did you get into this? You obviously didn't major in the fitness industry in college. How did this come about?
I got in a little backwards, actually. I got in because I majored in editing. I was a fitness editor for a really long time, and I needed to know how to teach people through writing how to do certain exercises, how to follow a program, how to. It's so much different coming from an athletic background and trying to learn to do exercise than to try to teach somebody else. And so I was finding that when I got my job at Experience Life, so I used to be the fitness boss around there. I was the editorial director of fitness content, but that's a little less pithy than fitness boss. So I needed to be able to both come up with article ideas, assign articles to fitness writers, and then edit them in a way that made sense. And what I was finding was if the writer was a little off base, I didn't necessarily know more than they did on the topic, and so I needed to know more than my writers. Right. And I'd always been a jock. I'd always played sports. I was on the U.S. rugby team for a really long time, but I didn't coach other people, and the vast majority of the people that I hung out with and worked out with were at a greater level of fitness than the people I was trying to talk to in the magazine. And as a writer, like your number one rule is know your audience.
Right.
And I wasn't able to talk to that audience very well at first. I was deep into, athletic training in my story ideas rather than like say, here's, learn how to squat. So
Right.
I needed to sort of break it down. So I started going to tons and tons of events, like, Perform Better, and like I feel like I've been to about every single thing, like specific workshops, and as well as like the big industry shows. And then I started getting certifications. Like I think my first one was kettlebell athletics, or was it sandbags? It was ultimate sandbags, I think, maybe. And then I just went on from there. I ended up getting my RKC 1 and my RKC 2. My on-it certification is a more recent one. USAW, CrossFit. What else? Like, I'm actually blanking on how many I went to, because I wanted to know about everything, because I wanted to be able to assign a story on just about everything.
Right. I think I'm kind of guilty of that too. I spend too much time reading and trying to look at like there's so many certifications out there.
Yeah.
And I want to do them all as well. And my wife is like, you need to slow down, just one at a time. Take your time.
I know, and it's, I used them as it was really nice then, because the magazine would send me to these events, and so it was on the work dime, and I was learning a whole bunch of stuff that was really useful for the magazine. Yeah. So it was very permissible at that time to go to absolutely anything and everything, and I still love to learn about just about anything, but I have definitely slowed my roll as well and gone down a few more specific paths for longer periods of time since then.
Okay. Now, what I love is that you mentioned things like sandbags and kettlebells for the longest time. Like those, they're instruments that not everyone uses, because when you look at men's fitness or women's fitness or any of those magazines out there, it's all, dumbbells and barbells, and sometimes you'd have a random article about one of those things. Mm-hmm. But you also are a big fan of a form of the deadlift that a lot of people don't know about, the Jefferson deadlift. And I didn't know about it until I started reading more of you and your husband and the work that you guys do, and I'm like, oh, the Jefferson deadlift. All right. I'm a big fan of Thomas Jefferson, so anything that's got Jefferson in it, I guess I'll try it out. And I really, really loved it. I think it's really scary for guys, because we do kind of worry about where the positioning is and coming up that we're gonna.
All you guys worry about it, and it's not an issue. No offense.
No, it's not. It really isn't. Like the first time I did it, I'm like, oh God, this is gonna be like a time I rode a bike that ended it very badly, but it was fine. So what about the Jefferson lift got you hooked on it versus conventional or sumo?
Well, that's the lift that I credit largely with solving my SI joint pain. And I had been doing so many sagittal plane movements. I've been doing CrossFit and coaching CrossFit for several years. And as you, I guess, may or may not know, a lot of those movements are the listeners, that is, are back and forth, or forward and backward. Right. And you're not getting a lot of, rotational, anti-rotational, or frontal plane movements. And I was lacking that in my training, and I hadn't really noticed to what extent. And every time I deadlifted, my low back would hurt. Then I met my now husband, David Delanave, and he was telling me about this. I just said about. I live in Minnesota too long. You hear that? About this form of intuitive training that we use at the Movement Minneapolis. And I said, okay, I'm happy to learn about this. I really, tell me more. But just so you know, I can't do deadlifts. And he kind of, we'll see about that. And the Jefferson lift or deadlift is what tested best. That's the version of the deadlift that tested best for me for probably a period of 2 months. And then sumo started testing well again. And then eventually, now I'm a conventional puller in my powerlifting meets, because now I can do any form again. But I was lacking that plane of movement in my training. And the Jefferson's pretty cool because it's both rotational and anti-rotational, because you've got to rotate, lock your torso into that position, and then as you stand up, the bar is going to try to turn you and twist, and you've got to resist that movement. So it's a great lift for a lot of reasons. Our physical therapist, Erica Mundinger, who works out of Movement Minneapolis, loves that lift too for SI joint pain, and I didn't really realize that there was. I guess I didn't realize that there was a reason that it gets a lot of people out of pain. We kind of experience that with our gym members, but I couldn't have told you the biomechanics behind it until she explained, like, okay, so sagittal plane movements overuse, certain musculatures or certain musculature and compress our SI joint pain, or compress our SI joint. Can you tell I've had too much coffee? Holy
It's all right. I had a couple cups before this, so I'm
I'm gonna calm down any second. Anyway, we get to engage more gluteus muscles when we do the Jefferson deadlift, and the body develops in this more a 360 degrees strong kind of way. So I just followed my body. I was just following my body, and it was saying do the Jefferson deadlift, so I did. And it's a more upright. Your torso's in a more upright position than a lot of deadlift variations, and some people call it the Jefferson lift because it is kind of a cousin or kind of a hybrid between the squat and the deadlift. You've got that upright torso like you do have in a squat. So it's not like you're bending necessarily over the bar. You're standing over the bar, straddling the bar with the bar between your legs and standing up with it right in the middle of your center of gravity. So for those with low back pain, it can be a better option. It's also just it's also blows up your quads in the most delightful way.
Oh man, I don't need to do that. I'm back to squatting 3 times a week, and if I can't fit into any more pants, my wife is just gonna just shake her head even further because I'm down to 1 pair of jeans, and she's like, "You gotta stop."
I think Kai Green is a big fan of the Jefferson too.
Oh really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I liked it because it kind of gave me. I felt that my core, my abs were a little more engaged.
Oh yes.
You really feel it like in a conventional or a sumo. And I've recently had to switch back to sumo only because I have a really bad problem of like after a couple sets of conventional letting my lower back round a little too much and I get a little lazy. But with sumo, that doesn't happen.
Yep.
But I might have to use the Jefferson a little more too before I get back into.
Like you might want to. You want to?
I might have to. I'll test it tomorrow and see how it feels.
Okay, that sounds great. I want to hear how that goes.
Will do. So lift weights faster too. So this is the program that you put out a few months ago, and I know you're putting out a special on it here for the summer.
Yes.
But what attracted you to this type of training versus say like a strict strength training type program?
Well, when I mean, really, I didn't invent this type of training by any means. It's metabolic resistance training. It's circuit training. It's that sort of hard and fast circuits that you don't spend all day in the gym. That was a big appeal for me at the time. At the time I started training like this, I was training under Jason C. Brown in the Philadelphia area, and I was training for rugby, and I had the mid-2000s were kind of rough for me because I wasn't sticking to my program, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later. I was not sticking to my program, and I had found his gym, and I fell in love with fitness genuinely for the very first time. Like I had, kind of crutched along through it, and you did it because I had to do it, but I didn't love it until I found this manner of training. And I was training for rugby, and I wanted to remake the U.S. team because I had taken a couple years off. And I needed to build and maintain, a large work capacity. Like you need that for rugby. You're all over the field. And so we did circuit training workouts, plus I did sprint workouts, and it got me so fast and fit for rugby. It got me as fast as I'd ever been, which was like 8 years prior. Like I had, clocked in at, I think, a 5 flat 40. I guess it was like around 2002 or 3, and then by the time 2008 rolled around, when I was starting to train like this, I got back down to a 5 flat. And they say that it wasn't CrossFit, but they say like, oh, you can't do sport-specific training for CrossFit or while doing CrossFit. But my experience was really, really positive with that type of training, and specifically for sports performance. And it's just a really fast way to get super duper fit.
Okay. Speaking of Philly, can you speak of what you were doing there this summer, and then we'll chat a little bit about rugby training?
Oh yeah, I ran away from home for 5 weeks. Is essentially what I did here. So I'm always in the gym at Movement, teaching classes and training clients, and I am in the midst of rebranding, in the midst of working on an entirely new website. And you've heard of makers versus managers schedule. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I talk about this all the time, and it's so true for me because I can't, dive in and instantly get in creative mode, and then like take a meeting and then go back into creative mode. Like in a maker schedule, like you need that. You need a lot of time to create something, time and space, and that's kind of how I feel about my website. And whereas a manager's schedule is, you're in and out and you're busy and you can be interrupted and you're wheeling and dealing. And it's just like I need a maker's period of time here. So I got everything covered and came out here to spend some time. It's where I used to live, so I've got a really great friend network here, and I'm crashing with a friend and writing my face off.
How much are you writing a day?
Well, it was a little bit of a rough start, to be honest, because I forgot that I my greatest gift is to fill my schedule, not to create space for myself. So I have had a lot of social obligations that have been so much fun, but I'm finally in the groove of writing now. But so I don't know how much a day. Like I'm trying to get a whole slew of new posts ready for when I do rebrand as unapologeticallystrong.com rather than jensinkler.com. Like having a personal brand has never really been my goal. Like I'm an editor still at heart, and I want to provide a platform for many worthy voices.
All right, so unapologetic.
It's hard to say at first. I had to like practice quite a bit. That's always a mark of a good brand, when you have to say the name 5 times before you get it right, right?
All right, so unapologetically strong. How do you coach that philosophy into your clients? And has that bled into other aspects of your life where you refuse to apologize per the social standard?
I find this a lot with my women clientele most often. Like they'll come in and they apologize for everything, for things that aren't their fault, for not being able to lift something or not be able. It's ingrained, I think, early on that we have to downplay our strengths, and you hear women all the time like not being able to take a compliment, right? Like no, this old thing, or some version of that. And I really believe that we need to. So I try to positively reinforce like certain actions and behaviors and words that I guess for as far as society standards, it might sound like bragging, but it's really like more so the absence of this like default of downplaying our abilities, because that is very unusual. Like that absence of the automatic denial of ability is odd. It's odd at first, and it takes some getting used to. So we first work on like just accepting compliments, like just take the compliment and say thank you. Like that can be a huge step for a lot of people. And then we sort of work into celebrating our own successes, and I love that I am building a community where people are not afraid to say like, yeah, I'm strong. Like it's not bragging, it's a fact, and it's also like it's relative. It's strong for you. It's whatever fill in the good the good quality is for you. Like, and it's okay to have that sort of positive relationship with yourself. In fact, it's desirable. Like that's what we're going for. I think everybody ends up happier. Well, and I don't want it to ever become like a bullying situation where it's like, no, like really take the compliment. But it's like, right. What happens if you do? Like what, it's interesting once we start unpacking the reasons that we won't accept compliments. And it's fun to watch that transition of into confidence, into more confidence, because right. Once you start examining it, you're like, oh no, I guess like I do deserve this. I did a good job here. Like I am stronger than I was. Like all of it is worth celebrating, and your life gets better. I think that's like the big part about strength in general. Like your whole life gets better as you get stronger very often, and it has nothing to do with physical strength. Not really, not at the root of it. It has much more to do with this sort of personality transformation. Like abilities transform entirely. They expand, and it's just really beautiful to watch.
So what drives your ambition and passion?
I love seeing the effect that like learning to love exercise has on people. Like it's such a game changer. It's such a life changer, really. Like it stems from like my own experience with fitness. Like I didn't really like what I was doing, and I didn't experiment enough earlier on to figure out what I did really love. And so I am super passionate about teaching people skills that they didn't have before, and then like watching them take and run with it, and, like specifically lifting skills. Like that's sort of like my little niche.
Yeah.
And then helping make fitness more of a foregone conclusion in their lives. Whereas before it starts out as this like I have to do this or I'm supposed to do this, rather than like I get to do this and I want to do this. I like that drives me every single day. Like what can we find and learn that we think about in an entirely new way, like that becomes such a part of your life that you get that you want to do it. Like I was talking to a friend yesterday. We went to the beach, down the shore, as they say, and we took 2 kettlebells out to the beach. So three of us, like 2 of my friends and me, and one of them was saying that she gets flack sometimes from her family, like, oh, you're gonna work out on vacation, and she wants to. Like she's like, it's not a hardship for me. This is what I enjoy doing. It's it's like eating. Like it's part of my day. Yeah. And I was like, that's exactly it. Like it's not something that you need a vacation from. And I'm not saying don't deload. I'm not nothing against deload weeks. I'm just saying like it's part of your life. It's a part of your life that you love.
So how did you get into rugby? You know, most people don't consider that a girls' sport, if you will. So why rugby?
Well, it's funny that you say that because rugby is one of the only sports that the rules are exactly the same for women as they are for men. The ball size is exactly the same as it is with the men. Like, you know, it's not like with basketball where you've got a slightly smaller ball. Right. Everything's the same. Every single thing is the same. I found it sort of on a date in college. This guy was like, you want to come see me play rugby? And so I went, and I was like, oh, I got to play this. Because I was always the one who fouled out in basketball. I was always like a little more aggressive than your average sports, encouraged. And I saw it, and I was like, this is my sport. I just didn't know it yet. And so I played it, I found it my sophomore year in college, and I played it for the next 13 years. And loved every second. It changed my life. I didn't have a passport before rugby, and within 2 years I'd made the junior national team, the U23 team, and got my first passport and went to Scotland, Wales, and England, and it changed my whole life. And what's really, really amazing about rugby is that it's so body positive. There is a role and a position for just about every body type. There is, and so it's given me this really healthy relationship with my body. And I already, I wasn't, my goal is to spread that sort of rugby love for, oneself and one's body type and one's abilities, on a wider stage. But really rugby is the root of that. So, sorry, that was that was my love note to rugby. It's my favorite thing. As far as training for rugby, you need a lot of both rotation and anti-rotation because you've got people trying to tackle you, or right. You're trying to tackle people. Power training, at least segments of the Olympic lifts, you could do the power versions of clean snatches, that kind of thing. Endurance and stamina do play a role. Cardio fitness does play a piece because some positions you might run upwards of 7 or 8 miles in a single game. Not probably me. I played a wing. So I was sprint, chill, sprint, chill. I mean, it still probably covered quite a bit of ground, but with some of the forwards, they never stop moving. If you look, at a game tape and you're watching the forwards, they go from breakdown to breakdown. They get up, once they're tackled or once they ruck, and then they head immediately to the next breakdown. Whereas I was on the outermost position. You got me chilling out there until it's time to go fast, and then I get to chill again for a little bit. I mean, you find your own work, but it's a little bit like a different game for everybody. So the training is going to be reflective of that. We had different programs for different positions.
Okay.
And I played a position that involved a lot of speed work.
And that makes sense. Even in the experience that I had with sports, soccer was basically that's how I played wing. I just went out, waited, and then I realized I could be even lazier and just be the goalie and just stand there and not have to run.
So how'd that work for you?
Oh, I was a great goalie.
I like it.
I wasn't bad. I almost made the middle school team, but I wouldn't catch the ball the way the coach wanted me to catch it. He was like, catch it this way. I'm like, did I catch it? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, then why do I need to catch it your way? Because I stopped it.
Oh my gosh, you're uncoachable.
That's probably what happened. I was like, but I caught it. Why do uh, but yeah, and in basketball, I also fouled a lot. I actually fouled out in one
Oh,
quarter.
you did?
Oh,
Did
yeah.
Did you play rugby?
No.
We should have, it sounds like.
I wanted to
You
play
missed.
football. Mom wouldn't allow it.
Well, rugby's concussion rates are lower than hockey's and
Really?
football's.
How's
Yeah.
that?
It's
Is
like
there no?
it's on par with basketball because rugby players tackle smarter. I know you're saying like you're going to say there's no padding, right? There's no padding, and you're right. But it's also you tackle with your shoulders,
Right.
not your head. You don't like you if you led with your head the way that footballers do, you would be concussed all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Like you can learn that you learn that lesson really quickly. It's why though that sometimes we would see that former football players who were trying to transition over into rugby had a
Right.
much rougher time because they would try to spear with their heads, and like you got to put cheek to cheek. You got to put your cheek in your face next to the cheek of their beep, and then that's where
You can curse on here. It's totally fine.
I can. Okay.
Yes. I don't think there are any kids listening to this show. My grandmother's not listening to it. I know that.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, cheek-to-cheek tackles like prevent concussions quite a bit. I'm not saying there are no concussions in rugby, but like they do quite a bit though. Like there are gold standards for concussion prevention and treatment in place. So the Seahawks, that's who's in Seattle, right?
Yes.
You can see how many professional sports I follow. The Seahawks actually worked with with a rugby organization out there called Serevi.
Yeah.
On tackling. So like football is taking notes.
So I thought it was interesting a few years ago that EA Sports put out a rugby video game, and I was kind of thinking, is there really a market for that?
Well, it's the fastest growing team sport in America right now. And it is the second most played team sport in the world. So yeah, I'd say there's a market.
Yeah, it's interesting. You don't really see a lot of rugby on like ESPN or ESPN2 or really any of the ESPN channels.
Yeah, it's hard to find on TV. Although NBC was showing the national championships 2 weekends ago. Main NBC. We were used to getting like the sort of like the NBCs or the ESPN
or the Fox
that would show like
sports, right?
Yeah, yes, that would show like poker too.
Yeah.
But now it's like it's getting more mainstream all the time, and with the inclusion of the sevens game in the Olympics in 2016, it's just going to get bigger. Cool. And it is like the fastest growing team sport in America right now.
So on your website, you mentioned that you are never without lip gloss. If you could only have one lip gloss for the rest of your life, what is it?
That is the hardest question anyone's ever asked me. I used to be a MAC girl, but I think it's pretty full of like plasticky stuff. So I made the switch to Tarte, and that's Tarte with an E on the end. For just about I cleaned up my whole makeup bag a couple summers back, and I haven't looked back. Like it's really good stuff. Like it's not full of the parabens and phthalates and all the crap that's in a whole lot of the makeup, especially the makeup in America, because we do not have the same laws that that Europe does as far as ingredients go. So our stuff's even dirtier. So we got to kind of be careful. So I replaced all my stuff with Tarte, and Tarte lip gloss is amazing.
Consistency has sort of been a big thing everyone's been writing about lately, and you had a recent article on that as well. And I had a question from that article that I was inspired to ask you. What act of consistency has been or was your biggest challenge to overcome?
That's a great question too. We always expect to, after a hard workout, you like look at yourself in the mirror. You're like, do I look different? It's not the way it works, is it? And so consistency is not super sexy because it means you just show up and you do the work over and over and over again. And it's not about it's not about the instant gratification, and that's rough. My biggest hurdle was honestly working out consistently. I hadn't realized that community was so important to me yet, and I was trying and failing to follow a program on my own. This is the mid 2000s. I'd done what I was supposed to do up to a certain point. Then I had gotten chondromalacia in both knees, which is like this overuse and sort of roughed up cartilage under my kneecaps, and looking back, like a lot of the training I was doing, a lot of the lifting I was doing, I was really playing into my tendency toward quad dominance, and had been ignoring, hamstring and glute development almost entirely. So once I became in pain, like once my knees put me in pain, I kind of fell off the fitness wagon for probably 2 years, and it was, like I wasn't playing well, and obviously because I wasn't training well. And it wasn't until I met, I started training with Jason in Philly, and Pamela McElree, that's who still owns Urban Athlete now, and I took group classes, like group fitness, like they were kettlebell classes, and we did, circuit training, and I did sprint workouts on my own, and I sort of rallied all my friends who were in the same boat. All of us were sort of in the same boat at the same time, like hadn't really been hitting fitness as hard as we should have been, or wanted to, I guess, at the time. And we all got back. Became part of this community, and I loved it. I loved it so much, and that was the biggest thing for me, is like I haven't looked back since then. Like now it is a part of my life, but I still to this day will rally the troops. Like I've got lifting buddies. I'll go to group classes, sometimes, but and now I can lift on my own, and I will do it, and I will enjoy doing it. But at that time, like I wasn't ready for that. Like I felt alone, and I felt like it wasn't very fun, and I didn't really want to do it. And so I found other people to do it with me, and that helped with my consistency immensely.
So creating communities is a big thing in the fitness industry right now, getting people together to work in groups and support each other. So how do you guys at Movement Minneapolis institute community, with people that are there? How do you get them motivated, and how do you build that sense among the people at the gym?
Well, behind the scenes, we call it glitter. We'll try to pick a theme for every month, or a project. Like 1 month it was 5,000 swings. We did Million Pound November, where we put anybody who wanted to got put it onto teams, and together these teams of, I think it was 5 to 8 people, were trying to collectively lift 1,000,000 pounds that month. And so it was, and they would check in with each other, and they knew who was on their teams, and that, that's very motivating. That's very motivating to get into the gym if you know that you're gonna short your team, 20,000 pounds if you skip a workout, or 15,000 pounds, or 7,000 pounds, or whatever is a good amount of volume for you. So it's that kind of glitter, like getting people moving toward the same goal. And like the 5,000 swings was really fun because David is a computer genius, and so he builds tracking devices for everything. So we got, like up on the screen at the gym, you could see like exactly how many swings everybody was at, and you could see the people like, inching upwards, and like you could come in the gym and be like, all right, where am I at? And you can plot out how many swings you need to get based on the Adaptifier, and which is the tracking program David wrote to go along with the screens at the gym.
So I have another fun question, but I had to double check first because I'm a big fan of your husband, Dave Delanave. But I remember he did an article saying that you guys don't allow headphones at the gym.
It's not that we don't allow them. It's just that nobody ever wears them for anything. It's not outlawed, but we also like our members love each other, which is awesome. Like they have their people, like they know who's going to be at what classes, and we don't say like stop talking. You know what I mean? Like we don't, like let's use fitness as a social endeavor, because that's, again, like it's something that makes fitness stickier. Like, yeah, we're all working hard, but that doesn't mean that you can't
have fun together, right?
Right.
So when you are in the gym and you've got some headphones in, what guilty pleasure track do you listen to that you would shamefully admit to others is on your workout mix?
Well, people seem to think I should be ashamed of listening to Heart Radio on Pandora, but I'm not.
No, because Heart's amazing.
Heart is amazing, and on that station is like, Pat Benatar and all sorts of good things. I love late nights at the gym, either by myself or like with lifting buddies, where we can like dim the lights and put on Heart Radio and make the gym a little bit romantic. It's lovely. Blast that. My women's only class will kind of groan. Like I can't do Heart Radio always with them because some of them didn't like 80s music as much as as much as any normal person would.
So you love to cook, and you have a great cookbook out there on your website as well. But I gotta ask, what is the best breakfast you have ever made?
I am so good at breakfast. Like David's actually better. He's a better cook than me for every other meal, but breakfast is mine. And so I make him call me the breakfast master. And I've been making my like temporary Philly roommate call me the breakfast master when I make breakfast for her. It's really, I should probably calm down a little bit. Anyway, we had Max Shank staying with us a couple years ago now, and he was bragging about how good his breakfasts are. And so we decided to have a breakfast off. And I think, what did he make? He made something that I can't even remember, okay? That's how good it was. Just kidding, it was really good. And then,
Shots fired.
I know. Just kidding, he's really good at breakfast. Anyway, my go-to is a soft scramble with a ton of veggies, broccoli, asparagus, cooked in coconut oil. You got to have bacon in there, and then you put goat cheese on top after you scoop it out of the pan, so it gets a little bit melty right on top. You don't want it too melty, so you can't put it in too early. And probably a side of full-fat yogurt. Greek Gods brand is the best. And then you put honey on top, raspberries, blackberries, and then David makes kombucha. So some of his homemade kombucha to drink. That is a breakfast.
I'm hungry now.
I know.
I want to go eat that. That sounds amazing.
I would totally make that. It's got to be a soft scramble, though. You can't overcook the eggs. What's your stance on omelets versus scrambles?
Well, considering every time I make an omelet, it turns into a scramble, I might as well eat scrambles.
I just think they taste better.
But see, I love omelets because omelets are egg tacos, and I love tacos.
I like your reasoning. I like it.
I
But
mean,
you can't. Yeah, I don't know. I think that the omelet is overrated. I know that it's more difficult to execute, but I think the scramble is superior. So
crepes are more difficult.
Okay, fair, yes.
That never works out.
No, I've never even attempted a crepe, to be honest.
If you could have dinner with one person in history, who would it be?
This question only has one answer, in my opinion, and that's Winston Churchill. He is the most quotable man in history.
Okay. Interesting. I like that one.
Who was yours?
No one's asked me that one yet.
I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I don't know if I would choose someone like Genghis Khan or maybe like Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, yeah, that would be a good choice.
Or do I go even further back and do someone, sort of like Aristotle, the man responsible for spurring, thought in most of the Western world?
Oh my God, these are exceptional choices. And how are you going to choose? I went to the Genghis Khan exhibit. It's up in Philly now, in the Science Museum now, and he had a rough start to life. Like his dad was murdered when he was 9, and his mom got kidnapped, and a lot of bad shit happened. You can see. I'm like, okay, so that's why he was so.
So wait, his mom and dad both died. So Genghis Khan was really Batman?
Yes, actually, yes.
An evil Batman.
Yes, an evil Batman.
I don't know.
The Winston Churchill quotes. I just Googled one, and it's just like, however beautiful the strategy, you should occasionally look at the results. And how applicable to fitness is that?
In every way.
So Jen and I wrapped up our interview here with a little chat about our dogs and how much we love them. And how wonderful and amazing Jack Russell Terriers really are.
Well, I have one Jack Russell, we think, a mystery Jack Russell, maybe a Jack Russell Beagle, and then one Shih Tzu Bichon. I don't even know what a Bichon is, really, but that's the dog. So that's Franklin. He came with Dave. Okay. And Zoe is the mystery mix, who is a Jack Russell something. And she came with me. And they match, though, so that's how Dave and I got together.
They do. They're very cute, and every time I see them on Instagram, it makes me miss my pup a little more. But he's just about half an hour away.
Okay. I was like, oh no.
Well, we just when New York City is not a place to have a dog.
No.
And then Richmond was one place allowed it, the other place didn't. So.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking forward to getting him back.
Oh, I bet. How old and what kind?
He's a full-blooded Russell Terrier. So the difference between Russells and Jacks are that Jacks have longer legs to their bodies, whereas the Russells have proportionate short legs to the length of their body.
Okay.
He'll be 10 in April. But luckily their lifespan is like 15 to 18, so I've got a good
Yep.
few more years.
Yeah, Zoe will be 8 in late July, and she acts like a puppy. She's so smart. I love it.
Yeah. Do you ever notice sometimes they act like they're really dumb, but they're trying to trick you, and you're like, no, I'm on to you.
Yeah. Zoe and I have full-fledged conversations. Like she's like I am full-on crazy dog lady, because we'll be walking down the street, and I realize this just lately because like I'm back in city life, like back in Philadelphia, and like we're walking down the street and I'm talking to her, and I was like, I look insane, which is fine by me. I don't care. Like I know she understands me though. I think she has the vocabulary of like a preschooler.
I don't know what mine would have. I don't even know. He's too rambunctious and all over the place.
Oh, really? See, Zozo's got a calmer energy, so I don't know what she's mixed with. I think maybe Beagle, but she doesn't howl either. But she's kind of chill.
Interesting. Yeah, the Jacks
looks like a Jack Russell, acts like, I don't know. What's the calmest dog you know?
Jen, I've had an amazing time on the show. If more people want to know more about you, where can they find you online? Where can they pick up Lift Weights Faster 2? And when can we expect the relaunch of your site?
That's a great question. Right now I'm going to be at jensinkler.com, and honestly that will continue to forward on to Unapologetically Strong when the time comes. So jensinkler.com is good for me. That's for my blog and for my shop. I sell a lot of shirts, including What Do You Do for Cardio? I Lift Weights Faster. And then if they want the program Lift Weights Faster, that's at liftweightsfaster.com. And thank you so much for having me on. I had a really good time too.
Guys, please go check out Jen Sinkler over at jensinkler.com. She has a lot of great articles, a lot of great products out there as well, and is one of the best coaches in the industry. I apologize again for the technical difficulties, but sometimes Google Hangouts just get a little glitchy. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And please, again, go check out jensinkler.com and pick up Lift Weights Faster 2 at liftweightsfaster.com.